This is Neckpoint. It's hard to believe, but this is at the edge of the city of Nanaimo. And we are standing now on Sunset Beach, and look what a great rock I found for a painting. So let's create a masterpiece. Neckpoint Park is a place where you can enjoy great views. And what a place for a painter. Look, your teacher is getting excited, looking over the Strait of Georgia. For a Dutchman this is very special. And here's Shack Island. And if you take a small little walk to the woods, to the forest, you even will meet some fairies. Hello and welcome in the studio. I already made a sketch in light grey of Neckpoint. Today our special guest is Hendrik Corneliszoon Vroom. Yes, quite a mouthful, but in 1640 it was just a common name. And he looks pretty serious, but I think he's okay. Anyway, it was a magnificent painter of sea and cityscapes. I will show you more later in the show. And as always, we have lots to do, so at work. If you painted with me before, you know I love that early in the evening glow above the horizon. A bit of yellow ochre, a nice crimson and titanium white will do it. Above that we need some phthalo blue, light cadmium yellow and a bit of titanium white. This stands for the reflection of the earth moist that comes up in the early evening. The Dutch masters love this color. If you don't like it, just use a bit of light gray. Above that layer we can paint a darker gray. It's up to you how dark you want to make it. This is nice if you want to build up a cloudy sky with lots of clouds. With a bit of titanium white, cadmium yellow, we can slowly build up the clouds. Look what I do. I push the paint into the wet underlayer. It might be handy to practice a bit before you start painting clouds. Take a paper pad, give it a good gray layer, use a good amount of medium and start turning the bristles right into the wet underlayer. When you paint clouds, use your fantasy. Make up little stories. Sometimes I lay back in the grass in the garden and I see the clouds wandering to the sky. And then I make up complete movie scenes which I use in my paintings. But before we move on, let's take a look at the techniques of our guest Cornelis Hendrik. Cornelis was very simplistic in his skies. Much light and almost no clouds. But with his ships and cities, he beats almost every painter. And the cool thing is, it's all still there. All those beautiful towers. Walk to that city and get the feeling how life was during the 1600s. This is the city of the skipper Bontekoe, a famous skipper. He sailed around the world in a ship like this, and you still all can see it. It's all there. In this age of extreme technology, these tall ships are still so wonderful to look at. I always like to paint a few dark clouds to create some tension. The great Dutch masters like Ruysdael and Schelfhout painted extreme dark clouds and very strong highlights on the subjects on the foreground to create depth and drama. With the same round movement I press the bristles into the wet paint. Then with a soft aftertouch we can blend it in, just gentle and no pressure. To create some more depth we can paint a lighter cloud right in front of it. See how much you want to do, it's up to you. On the left side we can create more clouds if we want, and right in front of it some more grey clouds. And if we paint this all in a nice half circle, we give the viewer the idea that we look into the painting. On the light clouds I do a little bit of ochre tone, just as a reflection. On the left side we can paint a little bit more grey clouds. And yes, as you can see, I had to speed up a little bit. As this show takes only 28 minutes, we have to do that, but I think you can follow it easy. Below the painting, we can paint a few soft grey clouds to the rock. This is an old trick of the Dutch masters to lead the eye to the main subject. Clouds are always there for a reason. If you want to take a look into the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam and save the $10,000 trip, take a virtual tour, an internet tour. You can watch all the paintings of the famous Dutch old masters, and it costs you nothing. I love those misty islands far, far away, and you see that also by Neckpoint. The first island is the most far away, so I painted a little bit light. In front of it, always a bit of mist. I love the mist. And the second island is a bit stronger, so just use a darker grey, very simple. And again, right in front of it, I paint some mist. The water is a bit of light grey, and I like to mix a bit of raw sienna to it. Close by the coast, the water is always a little bit muddy, and that works great. And don't forget to give the island a bit of reflection. Before we dive into the water, let's do the famous rock first. I use a small round brush and a mix of dark grey and some burnt sienna. Most of the time I always use 3 tones of each. Then I always can improvise between those tones, and with tones I mean the color strength. Dark, middle and light. How easy can it be? First, follow the outlines of the rock. If you have made a good, strong drawing, it will peep through the wet paint. If not, well, you always can improvise a little bit. Just take a good look at the photographs you made, and easy to follow. It's not that very hard. Now, to save some time, I use a big filbert brush. I use a lot of medium, and I just follow the dark outlines where the rocks will be. Very important, always try to follow the direction of the rocks. So at the down part, they go down, not sidewards. And that's really important, a good brush stroke. Later on we will go over it with a knife, but for now we just fill in the blank spaces. I hate blank spaces in a painting. And this is what we call in fact an underpainting. And on these spots we use a bit more ochre. It's all kinds of light weeds what's growing there between the stones. It's a very interesting place. There's grass, weeds and everything. Time to dive into the water. We have now a rough setup for the rock, and yes, it looks horrible, I know, but it will come good. In the distance we can paint the water with light grey with a touch of raw sienna. Water in the bay is always a bit muddy. Now use a medium to make it nice and smooth, and below I add some darker bluish grey. Make long horizontal strokes, where the shore is, I use a bit more grey. There's gravel everywhere, but details come later. We're just filling the blank spaces, remember? On the right side, on the right corner, we want some sand and mud. So there we can use a bit ochre. That easy is it. I always mix some alizarin crimson and titanium white to the ochre tone, just to make it more natural. And of course don't forget to use the medium to make it nice and smooth. Hendrik Corneliszoon Vroom was born in 1566. Considering the dangerous traveling he did, It's a miracle that he became 73 years old. So he was not that boring and serious after all. He painted this giant masterpiece, the harbor of Amsterdam. And I always wonder, how did they do that without the help of photography or computers? The secret is this, of course: they were just good drawers. They sit down on a bench and they did it. Unbelievable. And above that city you see the Western Tower. And if we take nowadays a little walk along the Prinsengracht, you still see it. It's there. The beautiful Western Tower. And as I was born in Amsterdam, I'm still proud of it. Yes, I showed you the Western Tower already a couple of times in a former episode, but we got so many requests for more views on that beautiful tower, so here it is. And in the meantime, we let the clouds reflect into the water. It's easy. A bit of highlight and then fade it in softly. Now it's gonna get ugly. With some dark green and some dark gray, we push the paint into the wet underlayer. The lighter greens are mixed with some cadmium yellow light. And right in front, a bit of yellow ochre. And I hear you say, Michael, it looks awful. Yes, I know. But trust me, it will come good. No worries, I promise you. Now here's the magic trick. Watch this. Clean the brush and fade it in softly. And suddenly we have water. But cleaning in between of the brush is really important. Don't forget that. And no pressure on the bristles. As always, I like a good ripple in the water, and it's so easy. Just a bit of light gray and push it into the wet paint. Now let's do another one. And then we take the knife, a bit of yellow ochre, and we scratch the lower part of the rocks. Maybe there's all kinds of driftwood lying around there. Look how beautiful that goes. Easy. And right in front of it, a bit of foam. I almost forgot a few rocks in the distance. Now with a small round brush we can paint the little rocks, of course, and we will use the same dark gray and burnt sienna as the big rock. On top we can paint some light ochre, and I think for now that's enough. Those small little round brushes works great. My students always ask me, Michael, what kind of brush do you advise? Now that is difficult for me because a good brush is hard to find, just like a good carpenter. Now, only joking. Try out everything. It's so very personal. Buy the best you can afford and see what you like. Good quality will never disappoint you. Right in front of the painting I want a big old trunk. Always start with gray, dark gray and burnt sienna, almost black. That will make a nice underlayer to work in. Then paint some burnt sienna on top and blend it in softly. Later on we can work with it with a knife. Let's decorate a big rock. With a fan brush and a bit of light gray and ochre, we can set up some lights on the outstanding rocks in the distance. As we have all kinds of ridges, I move it downwards. Always follow the direction. Then with a light green on one side and dark green on the other side of the fan brush, we can bring in the green foliage. Now let's take a closer look how I work. With the corner of the brush I wiggle and wiggle. It's all wild bushes over there, so you don't have to be very precise. And in between there are all kinds of ochre tones. I think it's all dry grasses between the rocks. And look how it stands out towards the sky. Beautiful. It's a miracle how colors influence each other. That's why I always say cover the blank spaces as much as you can. Now, with a knife and a bit of light gray, we can scratch in the rocks. If you work with a knife, just put a little roll of paint on it and almost no pressure. That is really important. Just scratch it. Underneath we can do the same with the rocks, but with more diverse. With a bit light gray and ochre we can scratch in the rocks. How easy is that? The knife can do miracles. But you have to practice. And as long, I already said it, it goes wet in wet and no pressure on the knife, it goes great. And there it is, a whole rocky wall. How beautiful does that work? And you see me turning and wiggling the knife. It doesn't matter what you do. Just scratch it, make it all rough. You don't have to be very precise. There underneath, the waves probably affected the rocks. So I do a little black, dark scratch over there. It's incredible what water can do. It gets down everything. It might take millions of years, but finally also this rock will come down. Isn't that sad? And while we're scratching the knife, I have to tell you something about the North Island Wildlife Recovery Center. Let's take a look over there to the new baby bear, Ray.
Hello and welcome in the North Wildlife Recovery Center. My name is Ray, and yes, I will stay here probably the rest of my life. But I like it, I'm okay with that. I love Robin, and look how he feeds me and cuddles me. He's so sweet, and most important, Uncle Knut likes me too. He is here already for a long time, I think more than 22 years. And look all the space we have together, isn't that great? Let's see if I can find Uncle Knut. Maybe he is in for a nice soccer game, or just some running around. But you never know with these old guys. Well, we shall see. Uncle Knut, where are you? Uncle Knut? Uncle Knut?
Oh, come on, give me a break for crying out loud. Football, soccer. I'm much too old for that little creep. I will have a word with Robin. Robin, where are you? Robin?
Knut will be okay with the little one. He will get used to it. Okay, Robin and Sylvia Campbell founded the Naira years ago and are now world famous. And we were lucky enough to take some pictures of the new baby. And take a look how Robin takes care of Ray. It's heartwarming. And of course, you know Knut, the giant black bear who lives here already for 22 years. He knows Robin inside out and he trusts him. But please don't do this at home. Knut and Robin have a special bond, and that is the result of years and years relationship and patience. Now let's listen to this very special man who dedicated his life to this wonderful place. This is Robin Campbell, and he's going to tell about the baby bear Ray.
So Ray, that little bear, came to us last July, and Ray was in very poor condition, totally starving. It lost its mother very early, and somehow was able to survive, but it was going into convulsions, and it was we didn't know if we could even save Ray. But through a lot of work, we were able to save Ray, and we believe she got into some toxins as well. But the brain is very unforgiving in infants, and so Ray suffered from seizures, and there is some permanent brain damage there, so Ray wouldn't be a good candidate for release. So we had to make the decision, should Ray be euthanized or can we use Ray in our educational program? So the first thing we worked on is trying to work on these seizures and get them under control. And we've been successful at that. Now we're just trying to, work with Ray and just see how much damage there is. And if Ray would make a good, educational bear to teach people about bears in the wild. So that's where we are with Ray.
I was always a strong supporter of the Recovery Center, but Since May 1, 2018, I decided to donate all my paintings made for this show to the center. It's close by, you can take a look for yourself, and they will sell my paintings and prints on canvas. And so, this is the way you can support this very special center in Ericton, directed by Sylvia and Robin Campbell. In the meantime, I was doing some landscaping. With a fan brush loaded with light and dark earth green, I planted a big piece of weed at the top. And look how it comes forward, just by the light. It's all wild weed, so you don't have to be very precise, just have some fun. And of course there are trees on the edge. These poor guys are beaten up by rain, storm and cold. So they will never win a beauty contest. But that will make them so interesting. I love those wild growing West Coast trees. It's ideal for a painter. With my hand leaning on my palette stick, I draw a few trunks. With some green earth and a small round brush, we can paint the foliage. Now let's take a closer look how it works. Just push the bristles downwards into the wet underlayer and make the foliage uneven. Sometimes they have a bad year with storms and cold, and sometimes they have a good year and then they grow wild, of course. Later, when it's all dry, you can put another ridge of trees in front of them if you want, but in reality it's not too dense over there. You don't have to do them all even. Take care that you make some differences in height and maybe in thickness, just like people. Some stand close to each other and some need some more space. I always say, if you paint trees, think like a tree. That helps. And I hear you thinking, poor Michael, you're losing it. Well, that's okay. You must be a bit crazy to be a painter. If you think about it, what you're doing, throwing some paint on a canvas, whatever, but it helps. It takes away all frustrations. So be happy. And we can go on forever painting trees, and if you have some trouble with it, practice on a piece of oil paper. Or even better, come by in our new lesson center in Parksville. I will show you how to paint some trees. I love it. And if you like scrapbooking, well, my wife Els can tell you everything about it. She's a designer for heartfelt creations, and she loves to do demonstrations. And here are my lovely students, learning how to paint mountains. They're doing great, and they are moving forward and getting better and better. And there's the mud boy from Holland, telling them how to paint a mountain. We do also music lessons for all instruments and voice too. Take a look on the website. Okay, enough commercials. Let's decorate the beach with some gravel. I shake the fan brush with some light grey and a bit of yellow ochre. Just make the surface rough, and that's what it is. And with some green, earth green that is, we can paint some more seaweeds if you want. Now, let's get excited. We're gonna decorate the big trunk in front. With a knife and some light burnt sienna, scratch the paint into the dark underlayer. We can put a bit light grey on it too. It's all rotten woods and it's rotten away, and that's the fun part to paint. Just scratch softly till you think it's enough. With a bit of dark, we can make some indents, always looking good. Big, deep scratches. A bit of highlight on the top, and it's starting to look real. Ooh, and your teacher is carried away. He cannot stop anymore. But there it is. I think it's ready. As a final touch, we can make some ripples on the water. Just a bit of light grey, a little roll on the knife will do the trick. And no pressure, so important. And your underlayer should be wet, otherwise it doesn't work. Even on the beach we can add some highlights, so here and there. Not everywhere, but a few little things. Yes, the knife can do miracles. And I almost hear the waves, and the wind, and the seagulls. And I think we're done for today. Neckpoint, what a beautiful place to enjoy nature or just sit down and dream away. You can watch our show also on our website. Thank you for watching and keep on painting.